Welcome to the Music Universe podcast. We're talking Slane Castle today.
Hey, buddy, check it out, check it out, check it out.
I see that. What do you got there?
I got the Music Universe merch, and there will be more to come later on. These are really cool, really well done, super soft. I love it. Yours will be in the mail very soon. I have to go back and get some more at the at where we were having them done. But yours will be in the mail soon, and I just wanted to be like, ha ha ha, I have it and you don't. So
well, it's all right. It happens, and we're gonna get it here soon. And who knows? Maybe we'll end up selling them. I don't know.
Maybe
That's
you'll have to let us know if you're interested in a
Yeah.
Music Universe tee. They're really cool, very sleek. You can wear them under jackets and close them up just like this and hide the logo. So yes, we got merch now. And you have an incredible guest. Tell me a little bit about this castle.
Okay, so are you familiar with Slane Castle in Ireland by chance?
A little bit. It's a recording studio, right?
Well, it was at one point. U2 recorded The
Sure.
Unforgettable Fire there. And it's a concert venue. It's a large outdoor concert venue, but it's still a family home. And it's celebrating the 40th anniversary this year. And I'm chatting with Alex Conyngham. He is the son of the founders of it. And he tells some really cool stories about growing up and all the cool things that were going on, all the guests that would show up and perform for them or just kind of hang out or even record. So U2 is a big topic of discussion. For one, I'm a big fan. And two, they just kind of, they're kind of the ones that brought Slane Castle to my mind. And of course, Guns N' Roses, Metallica, Bruce Springsteen, all these rockers have played there. But there's one guy that hasn't that I discuss. And I'm sure you can imagine who that is. Garth.
But interesting.
Watch it. Here's my interview with Alex Conyngham. And again, we're talking about the 40th anniversary of the castle, as well as their new Slane Irish whiskey that they have. So here's the interview. Alex Conyngham, thank you for joining us on the Music Universe podcast. How are you doing?
Very well, thanks. Not too bad at all. Greetings from Slane.
Yes, you're our first international guest that I can recall, at least on Zoom. And it must be nice over there in Ireland, is it?
It is. Right now it's raining, but it's Ireland, so but yeah, no, it's great, thanks. It's been a big year for us this year because we're actually celebrating 40 years of Slane concerts. The first show was back in 81 on the 16th of August with Thin Lizzy headlined, and U2 were just getting started, so they were the support act, and I can't believe it's been 40 years.
Yeah, 40 years of that place. I mean, I know that U2 is a big history. You could see I'm wearing one of their shirts under here.
Nice.
Been a big fan all my life, and I know that they have a big history at the castle, and it's got to be bittersweet at the same time because you can't have shows there right now.
Not at the moment, but look, we're looking forward to hopefully coming back next year with a bang. But yeah, U2 have a long relationship with Slane. Obviously, they did that first gig supporting Thin Lizzy, and then a few years later, they actually lived with us in the castle. So we were sleeping upstairs, so were they, but they set up their recording studios in the dining room. And Brian Eno and Daniel Lenoir were on that album, and it was called The Unforgettable Fire. And it's a fantastic album, and I remember them chasing us around the house and getting Bono's orange juice in the morning. And we got into trouble for tinkering with the recording equipment early in the morning. They thought it was ghosts playing with a machine, but in fact it was us tiptoeing downstairs and pretending to be rock stars. I think we probably set the album back a few days, but so yeah, and then they finally U2 came back and did two amazing shows in 2001, and there's a great DVD of that actually called U2 Go Home, which is and two extraordinary gigs. Bono's dad had passed away shortly before one of them, and it was a really emotional moment with the Irish crowd supporting him. And then the other one, there was a soccer match on, and Ireland, the beer sales were down, and then Ireland scored, and 80,000 points went up in the air, and it was a whole different story. So yeah, and it'd be great to get U2 back here one day.
Yeah, I have all their albums. I do have that Go Home DVD, and it's really neat to see just that many people packed into this place. But tell us, let's go back a little bit to the whole unforgettable fire. If I'm not, am I incorrect there that the fire was actually in the castle?
Yeah, so the naming of the album was kind of ironic because that was in the mid 80s. But then in 91, we had a terrible fire at Slane Castle. Thankfully, so I was at school, I wasn't in the country, Dad wasn't in the building. And if he had been with my stepmom, my baby sister, none of them would have survived. So nobody was killed, but the place was very badly damaged. We lost the art collection, but look, they're just things. And unfortunately, Dad didn't have the place insured because the premiums were so expensive. It was just unworkable. So it took 10 years of doing gigs at Slane to raise enough money to rebuild it. And in fact, we then reopened it just in advance of the U2 show in 2001. So the name of the album and the actual fire event is just an unlucky coincidence, if you like.
Wow. Yeah. And I've, like I said, been a big U2 fan, but that's the first I've heard of that. I don't do a whole lot of reading. I do a lot of watching.
Yeah.
But,
and a lot of listening by the sounds of it as well.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. All kinds of different eclectic music around here. And of course the website covers all genres, but 40 years. So when you guys got to bring U2 back and, got to reopen, of course, that was likely, a very joyous and monument time. But what's it been like since you've reopened and, before the pandemic? I mean, you guys were, I believe I've heard, holding at least one show a year, correct?
Yeah, generally we try and hold one a year. Sometimes there's been a hiatus, if like Slane is an 80,000 people venue. So, and the Irish population, so it's the biggest outdoor venue in the country effectively. And so if you're gonna fill Slane or get close to it, you've got to be a big name. And it just kind of depends on who's on tour. So the last couple of gigs before the pandemic, we had Metallica in 2019, which was an incredible show. And Slane had actually been on their bucket list for a long time. And, the Metallica family, it was an incredible gig. It was loud, but it was brilliant. And they were so appreciative of the Irish audience and the people of Slane. And we went backstage and met them before they went on. And Lars Ulrich in particular we had a lovely moment. I had my son who was 11, Rory, and my dad, and Dad's been doing the gigs, Lord Henry, for years and it'd be pretty well known, but Lars completely ignored Dad, completely ignored me, and went straight to my son and said, now you're the person I need to pay attention to here, because one day I might want to come back here in my Zimmer frame and play Slane, and I'm going to need your permission. So he's got a good sense of humor. And then prior to Metallica, it was Guns N' Roses, who returned to Slane, having played in 92. It was a different show the second time round. They got on stage on time this time round for starters, but it was a great show. So, we've done different shows. We've generally done the kind of rock arena, but we've had Eminem, we've had Madonna. So it's varied, but I guess rock and roll is probably mainly what we're known for over the years.
Well, I was about to ask, and you kind of answered this question. When you have the artists performing there, do they actually get to stay in the castle with you? But then you mentioned you actually went backstage to meet Metallica.
Yeah, so in the old days, they probably would come up a bit more. Artists have pretty grueling schedules now, so they tend to ship in, ship out a little, but they do come up to the castle for sure, or we go down and meet them, depending. I think in the early days, I remember when the Stones played in 82, I was 7 years old, but I think there was a party both before that gig and afterwards, and people hung around a lot longer Now they tend to ship out and get off to the next gig. So I think the industry's probably changed a bit in that regard. But no, if you come to Slane, you know, certainly kind of meeting the family, and now of course there's the whiskey as well. So we want to make sure that they get a chance to enjoy a drop of Slane if they're so inclined.
Sure. And kind of jumping back when you mentioned that you guys lived with U2 while they were there, what, other than, you know, getting in trouble for messing with their gear, what was that like having these guys who weren't quite the big rock stars they are now? That was still a few years later with the Joshua Tree in '87, but what was it like to have just a punk band at the time really staying with you guys and recording?
Well, the lullabies were good because we were off to sleep with music coming up through the floorboards, and that was always part of growing up for Slane. Like Dad stripped out the kitchen in the castle and opened a nightclub down in the basement, you know, when we were fairly young. So we were always used to having noise in the building. And I can remember, I think for this show that Springsteen did, and he played his entire set in the dining room the night before the show to about 3 or 4 people. I wasn't one of them, sadly, but I do remember being upstairs, being able to hear it, and Dad got to enjoy that incredible kind of intimate gig. So, you know, for us, it was normal growing up. I guess we didn't know any different, but it was, I suppose, you know, in retrospect, it was a pretty extraordinary upbringing. Now my kids, you know, are growing up with it as well. And you know, they've been going to gigs since they were born. So it's part of what living at Slane is all about.
I was going to say that had to be so cool because you maybe didn't know who might be coming in and who might be, especially with that nightclub, and just growing up with that kind of atmosphere, it had to be really cool.
Yeah, it was, but we were put to work early. Like Dad got us to work on the shows, you know, from a fairly young age. Being a young teenager, we were doing jobs on the site and escorting VIPs down up to the VIP area, or artists off choppers and taking them down backstage. So it was good fun, but Dad always instilled a strong work ethic along with the means of having a good time as well, which is, you know, that's also what Slane's about.
Oh yeah. And you mentioned that you guys hold 80,000 people. Have you ever thought, and I know you kind of stick with the pop and the rock category, there's and Matt would probably suggest this because we're both big fans of this artist, but have you thought about considering when Garth Brooks made his comeback and the Croke Park shows got canceled, have you guys thought about inviting him to play for 80,000 people there? So
Dad was inundated when the whole kind of Garth Brooks, you know, scenario and Croke Park, you know, it was kind of farcical, and Dad literally was getting letters, emails, texts, like everybody lobbying him to take Garth Brooks and Slane. But it would have been very difficult just because of the number of shows. But, you know, Dad and myself would definitely not be immune to trying new genres. You know, I'd love to have seen Daft Punk at Slane. That would have been pretty cool. But obviously that's happened now. So, you know, I think we need to be flexible and open-minded. The wonderful thing about music is that there are so many genres, and a bit like you were saying earlier, buddy, like a lot of people have eclectic tastes. You're not just a rockhead or a, you know, it depends on the mood. I think with Slane, we need to be open to that too. Yeah, that would be cool to see that, because I know he hasn't been over there since like the 90s, and that was like the big thing. Yeah. And just kind of dawned on me that you guys could have potentially hosted that if it could have worked out. Yeah, we could. Yeah, so I mean, I know it's kind of early, but are you guys potentially looking at, you know, starting back up next year with the concerts? Yeah, I mean, I think live music, you're a bit ahead of us over in the States. It's interesting what's going on in, you know, markets like the UK. So we are definitely going to be back next year. It's just the landscape has shifted, and there are some challenges in the industry, particularly around insurance. But I think we'll get over that. I think live music is actually going to come back stronger than ever because people have really missed it. And you take things for granted, you know, like I miss the gigs anyway, but the power of connection that you get at a live music gig, I think it's almost spiritual nourishment, if you like. And I think people are really looking forward to getting back to that. So I think it's actually going to be good for the music industry in a way. If there is an upside, it'll be that the appreciation of live is going to be all the stronger.
Yeah, and things are kind of, I'm sure you've heard, taking a turn for the worse with artists back on tour here. Speaking of Garth, he canceled the remaining dates of his Nine Inch Nails, have canceled Stevie Nicks, all of 2021. It seems like daily we're getting stuff in for the cancellations, including a lot that have been sidelined. Foo Fighters, Wolfgang, Van Halen, and a lot of them just having to sit out now due to somebody catching it. And like you mentioned, the insurance is probably a big thing with that, because this wasn't a thing 5 to even 2 years ago, really.
No, it's not. And, it's going to be, when we do finally get beyond this, everyone's going to want to go back out on tour. So there's going to be a lot of choice, which means, I suppose, in some ways, great for the consumer, but it's a lot of competition if you're a venue. But I think it will even out. But, I feel for all of the livelihoods for the people in the industry that are just getting ready to reopen, and then you get knocked back again. It's the riggers, the engineers, the security staff, everything. It's a massive industry, the live music industry, on a global basis. And here in Ireland, we continue to be shut down. We haven't got a roadmap for reopening, and it's very frustrating. But we just have to be patient and remember that people are always going to come back to live music.
Yeah, and I think right now everybody's kind of on their toes, because it seems like at any given moment you could be prepped to perform or prepped to go to a show, and then it just be pulled out from under you. That's got to be nerve-wracking for everybody, especially, vendors or venues.
Yeah. Absolutely. But, you think of all the poor accommodation providers, restaurant bookings, the whole lot, like the ricochet, repercussions of those decisions are far and widespread. But the important thing is, everybody's safe, and that we come back. But, there are festivals going on in the UK. They seem to still be going on for now. So, it's going to be an interesting but challenging few months ahead. But yeah, we just got to stay positive and look forward to what happens at the other end.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's get on. I mean, we had some great stuff. Let's get on to even greater stuff. Let's talk the whiskey you guys have.
Yeah, so I'm supping on one now, actually, because it's definitely whiskey o'clock here. And yeah, the whiskey kind of came out of the music because myself and Dad recognize that Slane, is an iconic venue. It's our single biggest source of income. And as we're finding right now at the moment, if we don't have big live gigs, it really hurts us. So he recognized that we needed to diversify into something else. And we both love our Irish whiskey. And more importantly, we're lucky enough to actually, the family has land around Slane Castle, about 1,500 acres. And we've been growing tillage crops on this land for generations. And back in the 19th century, there were a lot of distilleries in this part of Ireland because we have some of the best farmland in the country for growing the cereals. So we were growing barley. That was going into cattle feed. And we basically said, why the hell are we giving it to the cattle when it'd be a lot more fun to turn it into whiskey? We draw our water from the River Boyne, which is actually the backdrop to the music venue. It's at the base of the field. That's our water supply for the distillery. And then the building that I'm in right now, they date from the 18th century, and they're the old stables and farmyard buildings. So we've repurposed those into a living, working distillery. And it's taken years to get it up and running. And Slane Irish whiskey launched in 2017, and it's a triple cast blend. That's the bottle there, and it's black and red, which are the family colors, and a little bit more rock and roll, I suppose. But it's what I would call a session whiskey. And by that, it's not like go crazy, but it just means it's designed, share it with your mates. It's not going to break the bank. But what it does do is it delivers on flavor, because we use 3 different barrels at the same time. So we separate whiskey and we mature it in a virgin American white oak, which comes from the Brown-Forman cooperage in Louisville. And then the second one is primarily a Jack Daniels barrel. And the third one is Oloroso sherry. And it's a little bit like mixing music. If you do the barrels separately, you can dial up or dial down the flavor impacts of each barrel. And then you're going to bring them together again or blend them to kind of create the perfect track or balance. Whiskey is all about balance. And so I kind of see it as Irish whiskey amplified. So we've kind of just turned up the flavor by investing in these barrels to deliver that. So yeah, it's a great whiskey. We served it in the field at Metallica, and we smashed out some great cocktails there. And we had it just in time, ready in time for the Guns N' Roses gig in the VIP area. And we had the guys out from the Dead Rabbit Bar in New York, and they made some amazing cocktails for Slane, and it's gathered momentum ever since. So it's I'm very proud of the work that it took to get there, and you'll see more releases coming out for Slane. And we're going to be commemorating our 40th anniversary with a limited edition product, but that's a little way out, but that'll be coming to the shelves at some stage as well.
You made a great analogy that mixing the whiskey is like mixing a song. I mean, that's really neat how I've not heard of that before, where you actually do 3 separate barrels and then, put what you need into it and just make it perfect. Yeah.
So that's where the skill of the blenders really come in. But whiskey is a flavorful spirit, and we just wanted to dial that up a little bit. But we literally made hundreds of different blends before we landed on the right proportions to get, so that it hits. You're getting plenty of vanilla on the nose from the American white oak, which is really heavily toasted virgin wood. Getting brown sugar and banana from the ex-Jack barrel, and then you get this lovely kind of dried fruit notes, raisins, sultanas, and a little bit of baking spice from the sherry, and all of that evens out and kind of gives you a good full flavored whiskey. But it's not an intimidating, it's like really approachable. Irish whiskey is generally nice and smooth and easy to drink, and we wanted to do that, but we wanted to dial up the flavor and then also make it affordable.
Yeah, and now is it only available in Ireland, or can people everywhere pick this up?
So it's available definitely on the home turf here, but no, it's available in America. It's also available, we're in the UK, we're in Australia, we're in France, and we just launched in Germany. So it's not everywhere by any means, but it's certainly widely available in the US.
And when you mentioned that you had served it at the Metallica show, do you know if that inspired them to start creating their own whiskey?
So they already, their Blackened project was already up and running, and we had a bit of fun on the day. We did a whiskey swap, so to speak. It's like lots of acts have got in on the whiskey game. I guess we're doing it kind of as a venue, but we hope that all the artists that do come into Slane to play, enjoying some Slane Irish whiskey is kind of part of the ritual of coming here. If they don't drink, and that's fine too, we still like to invite them up to the distillery and see the whole process in action.
And do you guys usually offer tours when things are not locked down?
Yeah, we do. We've just restarted now, so we have to do it within guidelines. But yeah, we're doing tours of the working distillery now. Although these buildings date from the 18th century, it is a contemporary distillery, which means we could design it with visitors in mind. So we wanted it to be a place where people can, touch, smell, feel, taste the whiskey processing. It's kind of an immersive experience where you learn about how the process from start to finish, and then you're in this beautiful landscape. You've got Slane Castle just beside you, which is our family home, and then you're nestled in the valley, the Boyne Valley, and you can see the fields in which the barley is growing literally from the distillery door. So yeah, it's that I guess hyper local approach to distilling.
Well, I've never been out of the country outside of Mexico, so if I ever make it over there, I'll have to check out your distillery. And
absolutely. Yeah, well, you obviously love the music, so have to catch a few tunes whilst you're here as well.
Oh, absolutely. Now, can people get their tickets for the tour online, or how can they pick those up?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you go to slaneirishwhiskey.com, you can book in for the distillery tours. We've got cocktail recipes on there, and then a lot of obviously back story information on the brand. And then slanecastle.ie is about the venue, and the family and everything else. And we've got a very cool taqueria here this summer, and a whole cocktail menu and other outdoor dining experiences. And for anyone who's interested in the history of the gigs, there's some great information on there where you can look back over the 40 years. And if you were lucky enough to have gone to a gig in the past, we're now collecting memories from people who came to the gig, and kind of sharing those and allowing friends to reconnect with each other as well. So that's like a living archive project that we launched to commemorate 40 years.
Oh, that sounds awesome. That sounds like that'd be fun to check out when it's up.
Yeah.
Well, Alex, it's been an absolute pleasure. Is there anything that I didn't touch on that you wanted to talk about?
No, I think it's been I've really enjoyed the conversation, and just look forward to welcoming visitors to Slane if and when it's safe to travel, and get people back in here, and looking forward to, being able to go to gigs and enjoying live music again. And, as I said, whiskey and rock and roll go well together, and hopefully that's what we've delivered with Slane. So I think we're all good.
Yeah. Well, we're feeling for you here. I mean, maybe a longer lockdown, maybe what's best in order to keep things on track when they relaunch, because it's just not going well, like we discussed earlier here. So hopefully things will continue to improve, and you guys can start hosting shows again and get these 80,000 fans to enjoy your whiskey as well.
Yeah, too right. Absolutely. Look forward to that.
It's really neat to hear the history of the castle, and, just to be there when you two recorded that iconic album, and to be upstairs. And then, the neat story that he said was they got in trouble for messing with the gear. That's something that I would probably end up doing as well, just because of that stuff. But
oh yeah, it's not always just about the artist. It's about where the artist recorded, where the artist lived, where the artist frequented, because it all adds up to the career. So that kind of thing. I had a doctor's appointment that day. Unfortunately, I remember it very, very well. I was supposed to do it with you, and unfortunately, I had a doctor's appointment and couldn't. So I'm sorry I missed one, because those kinds of things are very interesting to me. So it was a very, very fascinating interview.
Yeah, and I was actually in like an event that they were doing, that Alex was talking about the history of the castle, and it was like a online group thing, and there were other journalists and other people there. And then I just asked, like, he speaks so eloquently about everything, and it was just too much to just write up. So I'm like, let's just do a podcast on it. So it was really cool.
Yeah.
He was obviously calling me from the brewery there, so it'll be neat if we ever get over there.
Is the brewery in Ireland? Is he Irish?
Yeah, he's there. He's the founder's son. So, he grew up in that castle, and now out back they have the brewery that anybody can tour now. So I told him if we're ever over there, we'll chat with him. And don't get me started on getting a damn passport and getting over there. It's not happening. Not happening.
We just need to get you a passport first. I can't believe you don't have a passport.
Well, maybe I don't have one for a reason. Maybe I don't have one because you like to drag me places. I'll tell you what'll get me there, though. If they could ever get Garth to perform there, I would probably go and see that.
And I told you, I saw the Irish stage in Yankee Stadium. He used the Irish rig for the show at Yankee Stadium, but that's another conversation. We'll actually use that money we're saving on your passport and all that stuff to have you buy some merch.
There you go. Or you guys buy some merch and get me a passport.
And let us know, friends and fans, if you guys want some of these awesome teas. These are the really comfortable teas. They're not the scratchy. They're cotton, but they're not the scratchy kind that get drop shipped and you have no control over the quality. I literally go shopping for these, and I only wear soft teas anymore. So these are super, super soft. Let us know if you want them, and we will compile an order. So that is it. for the Music Universe podcast today. I'm Matt.
And Buddy, thanks for listening and watching on socials. Keep hitting that subscribe button, checking out the website, themusicuniverse.com. Take care.